Hello, and welcome to our session of Beyond the Workspace, delivering mini solutions with FME Flow apps. This was a bit of Christmas fun, but you can see how it will apply to projects that you're working on. And we kind of launched this on our LinkedIn, and you could play along with a different game every day in the lead up to Christmas. So just before we dive into the apps and the games, a quick plug to follow us on LinkedIn. Anything fun, new, exciting that we're seeing in the world of geospatial, we tend to post on there first. It's our primary social media platform. So yeah, give us a follow. So the format of the game was 12 Days of Christmas, and it was a showcase really of the FME platform as a data orchestration tool, linking out to different services and data, but most importantly, you could play along and you could interact with the apps. And thanks to some extreme vibe coding by Siobhan, everything looked pretty Christmassy, and there was snow raining from the sky from every app. And we're going to lift the lid and show you a bit of how these games worked and how they were created in FME. And yeah, the aim of the game was to collect a letter of the alphabet every day across the 12 days, and then you spelt out a Christmassy word or phrase and you could win a prize at the end. So the format of this session is a little bit about the countdown to Christmas. Then Simon's going to take us through one of the apps, which was Happy Gritmas, which was some Scottish gritters and roaming around clearing the snow. Siobhan's going to take us through how she vibe coded everything to look super Christmassy. Dave is going to dive into one of the apps that used some new PDF functionality in FME to create Christmas cards. And then we're going to finish on our favourite topic of admin, which is some Excel templating that we used to work through the apps. Now, I've said app a lot of times already. There are actually a few different types of apps in FME and FME Flow. So workspace apps are apps that run workspaces. So behind the scenes, you've got something that you've authored in FME form, and it will run that workspace, and you can enter parameters to control how that works. Automation apps are apps that run automation. So you might want to chain together a few different processes that need to run in the right order, for example. So you can use those. Gallery apps, a bit more like a web page. They host together things like workspace apps and automation apps, but you can also make them look really nice and have links and instructions and downloads that help you use the apps. And then AR apps, we're not going to touch on those today, but they are to be used with the FME Realize functionality. And we refer to all of those as Flow apps. So if you search the FME community, there's loads of information about how to get started with those. But today we're going to talk about apps that run workspaces. Each game was a workspace app, and then gallery apps, which bring those all together. So here it is, once all 12 days were revealed, that you've got each game is something you could interact with and play. And all of those are workspace apps that were uploaded to FME Flow. You enter parameters like your name and email address and whatever the game of the day needs you to enter, and then you can run those on demand. And as I mentioned, each day you collected a letter of the alphabet, usually whether you passed the game, and then you could collect all of those letters across all of the days. And I'll pass over to Simon, who will look at one of those apps in particular, which is the Christmas Gritters app.
Thank you, Claire. So yeah, the theme of these games was just something a little bit lighthearted, but has more of a serious sort of message in terms of the capabilities of FME, so sort of showcasing that kind of material. So what we created here was the ability to query the Scottish gritters. So Traffic Scotland published 2 feature services. You can see on the left-hand side here, feature readers. We've got some gritter trails and also the gritter locations. So the user gets to choose which gritter they think has travelled the furthest distance in the last 24 hours. Now, the chances of winning this were pretty slim because I think there were over 250 gritters with vaguely amusing names, and probably another further 150 or so gritters that don't have a name at all. So they were kind of excluded from this. But the idea is we choose a gritter and then we work out how far that gritter has travelled and then compare it against the gritter that's travelled the furthest. So to do that, we read in the live locations and the gritter trails, join those together, remove any duplicate date timestamps and locations by vehicle. And then we create a line out of the trail to basically give us a route, which we can then calculate a length of after we've built the line. We then sort that into descending order of distance travelled, and then we do a test to identify whether the one that is sampled matches the one that the user chose. And at the end of that, you will either be presented with a congratulations page there on the top in the green, or more likely that, oh no, you didn't select the correct gritter page, which gets generated just here. So, this is looking at live data that's provided by Traffic Scotland, and just a really nice way in which we can generate a bit of fun for the 12 days of Christmas countdown. So let's have a little look at what that looks like. All right, so let's have a click on here and have a look at this app and see what the user gets to see. So this was day 12 of Happy Gritmas. The challenge was to find and select the gritter that they think has travelled the furthest. So we get a whole list of amusing names. I'm going to check Calvin Harris there. Let's see how successful that gritter was and how far that travelled, and select yes to the terms and conditions and enter our email address. So once we hit run, that will go off and query and run that workspace, and we should get streamed back a web page that was vibe coded by the wonderful Siobhan, who's going to talk all about that a little bit later on. So it looks like, amazingly, I might have, I've selected the correct one. So there we go. Calvin Harris travelled a total of 101 kilometres today. We can view more gritter information here at the Traffic Scotland gritter tracker page. Now, the secret letter of the day is given to us here as N. Now, if I'd have failed to get that, there would have been a little mini game that I could have played to clear some snow to reveal that letter. So in some ways, I'm sad that I picked the right answer. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to hand over now, I think, to Siobhan, who's going to go all vibe codey on us.
Perfect. Thanks, Simon. Cool. Lovely. Yeah, so Calvin Harris, not only a great DJ, but also a great gritter. If I go to the next page. So, like Simon and Claire both hinted at, for the HTML pages we produce for our FME Flow apps, and behind the scenes was a bit of vibe coding to produce a lovely HTML page that not only looked Christmassy, but was also consistent across all of the different pages we created. So for that, we used the HTML report generator, and instead of creating lists and tables as you traditionally might do with the HTML report generator transformer, I used custom HTML code that I produced with an AI agent. So this gave me nice reports like this one on the left here. So if Simon had picked the wrong gritter today, he would have got a fun game at the end to clear the snow to reveal the letter N. So my background in environmental science, I'm not a coder by any means, so there's no way I was going to be creating 12 HTML pages of this standard for our Christmas countdown. So with a bit of AI help and assistance, I could produce those pages with FME. So what this actually looked like, there's a range of coding tools out there that you can use. For the Christmas countdown, I used Visual Studio Code with the GitHub Copilot extension and enabled Agent Chatbot on the side, which had access to all my reports and information that I wanted it to, so it could use that as context to build up the HTML reports for me. There's also different software available. By no means is it limited to just these three, but three that I think are quite cool. There's also the anti-gravity one, which was released by Google last year, as well as Cursor, which is quite a popular coding software. And all this to say, while we make cool HTML pages for our Christmas countdown, just to be mindful and be aware that if you are producing any sort of code with AI, always make sure checking it first, or as Santa does, check it twice and check the list twice, whatever he does. So just check your code that AI produces, and you don't want it might look right and perform well, like this train going around the track. He gets there in the end, but it might not be that smooth. So what this actually looked like in terms of Visual Studio Code that I had. So on the left-hand side, we have my repository with exports of the data from FME. So anytime app would run, it would produce a table at the end, and I could export that to a format that the AI could read and then use to inform it of what attributes were incoming for the HTML page. So for example, here for my Christmas shop countdown, I could give it the list of shops that the AI found for the Christmas countdown shopping finder, and it would give me those attributes and fill in that information into my HTML report for me. And on the right-hand side here, I've also given it a lovely detailed prompt around exactly what I want for my countdown app to look like. And then I can also give it the context of additional pages of HTML that it's already produced, so it has a consistent look and feel across all the different HTML pages. So what this looked like in the end, we had lovely HTML pages generated for us that all had this similar color and theming. It used our brand information, so our logo was incorporated, the font guide was incorporated, and we could have some fun apps to display. And just to leave you on this note, obviously Christmas is over, but we can continue the kind of journey of Flow apps, and Flow apps are always versatile and you can kind of transform them and keep using them. So we've converted the Christmas countdown shopper finder to the any holiday of the year shopping finder. So upcoming next is Valentine's Day this month, so shout out to the lovers if you need a present for a loved one coming Valentine's Day, or if you're going to be looking for some Easter eggs in a couple of months' time, you can come here and find out some information. And that app's also still live in the Tenzing Labs gallery. I think with that, I'm going to pass over to Dave, who's going to talk about some fun Christmas cards.
Okay, well, I don't have exciting vibe coding to talk about. I've got a nice retro old format called PDF. People used to say that PDF was the data format where data goes to die. Those of you who have used FME for a little while know that we've got some tools to help us get data out of PDF and also put it in. And that's the focus of the Christmas card generator that we put together. It's a really simple app. It produces a Christmas card that you can give to your friends and relatives who like FME and like Christmas. Really simple set of parameters here. You choose the color that you want to theme your card with, the language that you want to include in your card, in your Christmas wishes. In terms of the sort of history, spatial PDF support has existed in FME for a long time. There's been an Adobe Geospatial PDF reader and writer, and there's been access to a 3D PDF writer as well. And those have been supported in FME for a great many years. They were originally intended, though, for map production, not dealing with actually what quite a lot of end users sort of shoehorned them into, which was producing more traditional report output. And these readers and writers were supported by a couple of main transformers, the PDF page formatter and the PDF styler, that allowed you to get some decent output in those formats. As of 25.1, so middle of last year, now the release of FME gave us a brand new document PDF writer, so specifically optimized for creating reports, traditional multi-page documents that contain content that aren't necessarily maps. And that gives us a little bit more flexibility, especially when coupled with the new document PDF styler that gives us the ability of dropping lists or headings or tables or individual images into a document, even down as much as creating specific formatted paragraphs of content. How did we use this? Well, you can see this workspace. It's not extremely complicated. You can see that mainly this right-hand section is where the action happens around the document PDF styler in order specifically to style up particular parts of the output. So we created a single page PDF output, but it was designed so that it could be folded in half and then in half again, so that you had a front, a back, and an inside of the card. And those particular aspects allowed us to, inside the bookmarks here, position content like the front cover, the greeting inside, and the sign off. So that was the approach in the workspace. And the key parts of it really were that actually in all of the apps that we produced, we did some form of very high level validation. So have you agreed to our terms and conditions, and have you supplied us an email address so that we can correspond with you as part of the competition? So we used a traditional tool with a little bit of regular expression evaluation in there in order to work out that it was loosely the syntax that was appropriate for an email address. In this case, we mapped a drop-down menu of plain English color values, mapped them to their equivalent RGB, red, green, blue, to create the style output, and positioned that image or that text in the right place, in the right position on the card. So a simple workflow to give us our card that's shown in the right here, and we can style the type and color of Christmas jumper that we wanted on our lizard at the end. So that was the workflow, and it gave us a little simple output. So nice, light, more traditional FME workflow to produce a PDF out the other end from our source data. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague Claire now.
Thanks very much, Dave. So with every bit of fun, as comes admin, but there's kind of a key message here. It applies to whenever you're running things on FME Flow. So you've designed something, you've published it. Are people running the apps successfully? How often? How many times is each app being run? So who took 15 goes to pass the Christmas quiz, for example, or who's diligently participating in every app every day and excited for Christmas? But behind that is what is the load on our FME machines and engines, how many jobs are running, and who is going to collect all the letters at the end of the 12 days. So it's everyone's favourite topic, admin. So this is the one bit of the workflow that was behind the scenes that nobody saw. So we're going to focus on combining FME with the Excel templating functionality to automate some of our admin, because we were keen to do it all within FME. So as Dave's just mentioned, we collected an email address, the date that it was run, the name of the workspace that was running behind the scenes, and the FME Flow job ID. So you want to design the parameters that you want to collect with the admin and reporting that you want to do with that in mind. So the second step is storing that data after the workspace has been run so that you can use it and query it later. We wrote that into a Postgres SQL database, but you could put that anywhere where you store your data, because FME can connect to loads of places. And then thirdly, you want to read that data back into FME and do some more of your traditional FME manipulation. So we wanted to create counts, leaderboards, who'd done it every day, aggregate it, how often and by whom, and what apps were most popular. So we wanted to make an example here as a pivot table, did a bit of data cleansing, how many, which app was run and how many for each app. And then you want to design that so that it matches what your Excel template that you design is expecting. So exactly in the format with the right headings and attributes. And then finally, you want to write that out with FME using the FME template functionality to avoid making repetitive data and reports again and again. So you design this once in FME, but you want to write it out exactly the same every time. You don't want to be designing that report from scratch every single time. So to do that, we're going to use the FME feature type attribute to control what data is written to what sheets of the template report. So how did that look in FME? This was the one workspace that wasn't revealed to you when you were playing. So at the beginning, you read in the submissions, and then we did a bit of cleansing, kind of removing test email addresses that we know gritter names do feature in there as well. I think we tested with a few of those. And then if you look at the top, we created a pivot table with an aggregator. So just touching on a few of the important bits really of this workspace. So that aggregator, we kind of made it look in the right format, counted the attributes. I think I can see Big Friendly Gritter is in there. This data is anonymized with the gritter names so that we could show it to you. The second part is once you've designed that data in the right format, you want to give it the attribute FME feature type. Now that will decide which sheet it's written to. So you can have multiple sheets of different styles and formats. And then when you write that out, you want to use a feature writer rather than the standard Excel writer, because you've got extra parameters available to you. So you tell it what your template Excel is, where it is, using that feature type attribute to control which sheet. You can have like a cover sheet and things like that that aren't removed or are removed depending on your needs. But as you can see down here on the left, you've got loads of things available to you. You don't need to style and customize this afterwards. It writes out exactly as you want that report to look. So you've got frozen rows, colors, conditional formatting, tables, all the things that you do to make that look like a professionalized report at the end, but that's done automatically. So that brings us to the end of our Countdown to Christmas presentation. Just to say congratulations to Will Jones, who guessed the correct phrase, which was Feliz Navidad, my favorite Christmas song, across the 12 days, collecting the 12 letters. So well done, Will. And don't worry if you're watching this after the fact, because we have asked the FME elves to port across some of those apps into our year-round opinion tensing labs page. So if you scan that, it will take you to the website and you can play those games along with some of the other data translation apps that we've built for you. So finishes us off. And as Siobhan said, the fun doesn't stop. You got Valentine's Day next. So have fun.